Hello and welcome to SEO Science, a brand new podcast devoted to search engine optimization and everything to do with it. It's been quite a turbulent time in the world of SEO. I love podcasts and I can't really find many decent ones about SEO. That's why I reached out to my good pal Joe Greenslade, who's a backlink whiz. And we decided that, it would be a good idea to share our insights and just chat about what's happening. Everything's changing in this industry, and it's good to speak with people like Joe and some of the guests that we're going to get on in the series as well, to learn a bit more about what the hell's going on, what we can do to not get tanked by Google, and how we can make our businesses profitable. So Joe, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, mate. No, I look forward to it. It's nice to kind of get your head out of the work sometimes and have a chat about the industry, because when you're just building links, sorting content, doing technical stuff, it can, you get your head stuck in it a little bit, and it's nice to like speak to other people and talk through things. It's good. I look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the best ways I learn about SEO especially is from listening to people like who've got their own agencies, like people like you. That's how we met. And I'll talk a bit about that in a sec. And just like learning from people who are doing it and doing it well. And that's what this podcast is all about. So I think that's a good start. Let's talk about how we both got into SEO, what we're doing now. And then we'll talk a bit about challenges and opportunities that 2024 might hold. So how did you get into SEO, Joe?
Well, when I think I was like 16, I was in uni, and I was just I needed a little bit of income, a bit of extra money coming in. So I started, I've always enjoyed writing, and I started doing some content writing for some local publications, some bigger, agencies as well, SEO agencies. Kind of got my name out there a little bit. And I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I can do this myself. Like I was looking at these businesses, what they do, how they do it, how they rank content, what content Google liked, that sort of thing. And I started work, went into a career that I didn't really enjoy, and throughout the whole time I was doing this content writing, and I've like kind of learned about links, how links worked. I worked for an agency doing links for them as well. And you know how it goes. It gets to the point where you start getting some freelance clients. Those freelance clients were quite small, maybe some local clients, and word got out. In the end, I started getting some quite big clients, some big corporate clients in the USA and the UK, which essentially just led to me going all in on it, creating my own agency. 5-10 years later, here I am.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. My very similar background to you. Like I started off from like a writing background, and then I went into a job that I didn't really like, which was law. I was a lawyer for a while, and then decided then that I wanted to do more stuff to do with writing, and I got a job with the agency currently working for, and as an editor. So writing, editing, and then slowly begin to get exposed to the SEO side. And as a fiction writer as well, I'd had a website before I joined the company, and it was putting loads of effort into like writing blog posts that were just getting absolutely no traffic or clicks whatsoever. But as soon as you start to pick up even just the basics, like how to structure your article, the importance of using like meta descriptions, just like the basics now that we all take for granted. But back then you knew absolutely nothing about it. So you start implementing them, and then you start seeing your website growing, and it's quite an exciting thing. And I almost have come to see SEO as like a bit of a game, because it's all about leaderboards and getting to the top. And when I see it like that, when I see things like that, anything in life, which I begin to see it like a game, it becomes less like work, and it becomes more enjoyable and a challenge to overcome. And one of the biggest challenges I ran into with SEO was with backlinks, because I'm focusing a lot on content. That's probably my biggest strength, is writing the content and getting it SEO optimized. But the backlink profile for my website wasn't very good. And I started researching backlinks and came across your brilliant posts on Reddit. The informative, just explaining what was working right now, what you should avoid. And yeah, and we started just sending you a message, didn't I? So thanks very much for these posts. You've helped me so much. And then
Yeah.
lo and behold, well, next thing we know, we're both our agencies working together. Um, and yeah, we do quite a lot of work now together, don't we?
No, yeah, it's great. No, it was a good way of meeting this. You see a lot of misinformation about SEO in general out there. The main reason is like, say you're a doctor or a psychologist, there's a huge barrier of entry. You have to go to uni, you have to spend a lot of time in education, you have to prove yourself before you get there. The reality is with SEO, anyone can just say, hey, I'm an SEO specialist and launch their agency.
Yeah.
There's no huge barrier for entry. So a lot of the stuff you see online written by people could be people who've been doing it for a week. But that doesn't mean they can't write it with a bit of authority behind it. And when you're on like, I don't know, Twitter or Reddit or any of these places, some people, business owners, will look for information and they'll see this stuff and they'll take it at face value. Because why wouldn't you? Um, and that's where the kind of danger comes in, which is why sometimes I feel like it can be quite useful to contribute to places and put some good stuff out there that I've seen work with my clients and my agency and so on and so forth. And just I suppose to put a bit of good out into the world. The selfish part of that, of course, is that sometimes, like yourself, you can reach out to me and kind of I can get a client off of it, which is great. But it's not a completely altruistic thing to do. But yeah, like SEO is a kind of a murky place to be, and the content stuff is pretty. Once you got your head around that, it's pretty straightforward. Like the thing with content, it's like you were saying, you started off as a fiction writer. Same, but there's two sides of it because you can write for SEO and you can write for people.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to find writers who can do both. Some people are great technically and they can put together an article that like ticks all the boxes on Google. But when a person reads it, it's quite mechanical. It doesn't really fly off the page. And you can also get the other way around where you have people who are amazing at writing for people and people like reading it. But it's like you said, when you first started, you didn't have that technical know-how to kind of structure it for Google as well as people. If
Yeah.
you find someone who can do both, like that's absolutely golden. And that's something people don't kind of understand as well. But yeah, the backlink stuff, like, I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like, I actually don't know where to start.
Yeah, I think we are going to dive right into backlinks and probably do a few episodes on it because it's
Yeah,
huge. Like I say, there's a lot of misinformation knocking about, and it doesn't help anyone because people start trying things and like using Fiverr links, and there's all kinds of
yeah,
wild theories popping about now because Reddit is flowing up the rankings. Everyone's creating Reddit communities and spamming Reddit links, and these things don't work. And you might get like short-term wins, but
yeah.
long term, it's not sustainable, and you're not gonna reap the rewards, are you? So yeah,
No, you're right, mate.
it's the most difficult part as well, and I've found it's also probably the most lucrative part of SEO because it is
Yeah,
tough, and if you want to do it fast, you need to pay people like yourself who've got the skills and the know-how to go off, and not only do you write content, but you sourcing these links, and there's a lot of things to consider when you're sourcing links. And yeah,
there is, mate. You're right. The thing with backlinks is like a lot of businesses realize quite quickly how expensive they can be. And they think, oh, do you know what? Let's bring this in house or let's try it myself, which is fine. And some business owners I've spoken to have done it themselves and they've done a great job. But the reality is there's more in it than you think because inevitably you have to pay the website that's hosting the link. That's just the reality of the modern backlinking situation. Like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you might have been able to approach a a publication, say, hey, look, I've written this amazing article for your website. It's going to do well. Could you please post it? And they might be like, hey, yeah, this is great content. I will post it. And it has your linking. Happy days. Nowadays, you don't get that so much because people know the value of these links. They know how valuable they are to you, to the business owner. So naturally, they will ask for money. So
yeah,
that's part of it. Um, and this is kind of where a business owner might be like, well, why would I pay a link builder who then has to pay this person? I'll just cut up the link builder. And yeah, okay, fair enough. It's logical. But the reality is finding the right sites is a huge time suck because if you're doing it properly, you are. So if you had like a plumber and then you had like taking yourself like a law firm, they'd have different sets of links. They need different link profiles to make things work.
Yeah.
What STEM agencies will do, they might have a list of links they use for every single client, and they just do the same over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
it's like a hit and miss, it's spray it against the wall, and maybe you'll hit a few and you might get some traction. But the reality is, if you build a link profile for the client in question and for what they need, it works much better. But again, you have to write content for every single link that you put in that you're using. You can do link inserts as well, but we'll talk about those, I guess, in another podcast, a deeper podcast on it. But the content for every link has to be there, so that's a time suck. Finding the website's huge time suck. Negotiating with the website owners, again, another one. So there are so many steps that you need to take, and at each step you can cut corners. So yeah, it's important to find someone for your business who's going to do the job properly. And within SEO in general, that's hard to do. When you come down into links specifically, it's even harder to do. So, yes, it can be for an SEO agency quite a lucrative aspect. But unfortunately, what you do find is complete like profiteering, I guess. Like a lot of SEO agencies will literally outsource to India, outsource to China, build these 10 links for us, a few £100 or dollars or whatever, and you just get absolute dross back that is useless. And even some of the biggest agencies in the USA and the UK still do that today. So it is a minefield for businesses, and it is a huge cost sink. The problem with them at the moment is that what you find last year, I think about January 2023, in December 2022, there was a link building update. And essentially before that, if you would acquire really spammy or really bad links, they could damage your website. By damage your website, I mean they could lower your ranking for certain keywords and damage your website. And what was happening a lot were unscrupulous businesses were essentially building really bad links to their competitors. It's bad. Google realized this was happening, and they kind of said, right, this can't happen anymore. So bad link building, really bad link building now doesn't necessarily dip you down. So what you find is, although agencies will build really bad links, you don't see a negative impact, but you don't see a positive impact either. It doesn't go the right way. So the huge amount of misinformation there, because what happened was loads of websites who tried to build like really bad links to get themselves going up went down, but they didn't go down because they didn't go down because the links were bad. They went down because the links that they had stopped working. So it's like taking the foundations away from a house, right? So that was a huge like transfer of like misinformation around. Everyone's like, oh, these bad links, they're really bad, they're really bad. But the reality is, good links will move you up. Bad links won't move you down at the moment. So it's kind of a weird, dynamic there that people don't really understand. But yeah, that was a bit of a digression there. But yeah, the reality of it, mate, it's hard to do. To do it right, it takes a lot of time and dedication. And if you're a smaller business in an easier field, you might get away without having to build them. You might get away with having to build a very small amount of them. But for the huge keywords, the big players, you can be guaranteed that the biggest businesses you know of are building links. Their competitors are building links. Whether that's right or wrong, manipulation, everyone's doing it. So it kind of like self-fulfilling. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you get to the point where like, oh, I feel like my content is amazing. I feel like Google should rank it for what it is because it's great. But someone else might have good content and they've built links to it. And when you're playing with the really difficult keywords, you get to the point where you're like, I've got to build them. If I want this to rank, I've got to build them. Same with product pages, service pages. You've got to do it. So yeah, man.
Yeah. And so pivoting towards the challenges and opportunities that to 2024 might bring. One thing that I've encountered, particularly on the link building front, is the websites that I've previously worked with for links, like doing guest posts and stuff like that, their traffic has been hit hard, especially in the last round of autumn updates. And now that has had a knock-on effect on my site. So the power that I was getting from those links is no longer there. So I'm now having to go through, rebuild links to more powerful websites. So that is a challenge that I've encountered. Is there anything in the world of link building at the minute that is interesting, potentially and could be opportunities or any challenges?
Yeah, there's two sides to that. There's two sides to it. You're right. The helpful content update in September, a lot of the websites that are kind of link farms, I suppose you could call them,
Yeah,
which means their pure existence is there for links. They did get hit and they did dip quite significantly, um, which, like you said, has had a knock-on effect onto websites who have used these kind of places. Um, but that's had a kind of, at the same time, links have become more valuable. So if you
yeah,
find the right websites, they're even more powerful. And the reason for this is because the internet, I think I read somewhere like already 60% of the internet is AI now. Um, so the reality is Google knows that it can't realistically, at the moment anyway, think, right, that's AI, that isn't AI. I'll rank the one that isn't AI. So the way it is, the system it is using to highlight whether content is useful or not is and always has been links. But I'm finding at the moment, good link building is even more powerful than it used to be because there's so much AI content out there. It's almost like Google said, this is kind of the only way we can, you know, differentiate between something that's real and good and something that's not good. And that's not to say that AI generated content can't be good. It can. But
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's so much dross up there that's just been come straight off. And remember when that helpful content update came out, there was loads of terrible, awful AI articles at the top of Google because they just pretty much made a mistake.
yeah,
So although a lot of these kind of typical websites, those like kind of link farms and some of the worse off websites, have taken a hit, which is annoying because people have had to go back out and buy more links, build more links, and kind of reevaluate the link building process from scratch. When they've built links again, the power is really there. Because I
yeah,
think just speaking from what I've seen with my clients, since November, September, link building has definitely been more impactful and more effective. And I just think it's because Google's kind of said, they've got themselves into a bit of bother with AI. They can't at the moment completely like siphon out the absolute rubbish, and they've once again stepped back and relying on link building done right, mind, not like how you used to do it like 10, 15 years ago,
yeah,
as a kind of way to see what content is genuine and what content people are interacting with and enjoying, rather something that's just been pulled straight out of AI. Because in September, they
yeah,
had, people were going nuts, weren't they? Because like you were having brilliant, well written content getting outranked by like something just pulled off of ChatGPT. So yeah, I agree with you, but there are kind of two sides to it. It's very
yeah.
frustrating in that you have to go back to link building when you'd already built up a sufficient profile. But what you are building at the moment, in my opinion, if you do it right, it's more powerful than it used to be at the start of last year.
Yeah, that's spot on. I always think that with the updates, if you get affected by it and you manage to overcome it, which makes you better at SEO overall because it gives you with more knowledge. Like you've dealt with them challenges and you've learned and your quality is improved as a whole. So yeah, it's always good. And you
Yeah.
mentioned AI. Have you used any AI tools to help you with your agency work?
Yeah. In some cases where we're building like links en masse, we can use like Chat GPT or something like that to frame some content. Um, but the problem with that is it's always like coming onto, EEAT and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
What ChatGPT does essentially is it, as people know, but it just scrapes the internet and puts together a fairly generic article. But what's important nowadays is to give content a kind of unique twist, like to give it a kind of flair. You can't just have like a piece of generic content as the content that you're using because it's not going to have much power. It won't rank, and in a lot of cases, it won't even index.
yeah,
Which is why you get to the point where like when you're editing these bits of content like in full, by the end of it, when you're like, okay, that's good, I'm enjoying this now, you might have even just have written it yourself from scratch. Um,
yeah,
because adding those vital first-hand experiences, statistics, content breaks, all of that sort of stuff can take some time. So although it's getting better, AI, and it will continue to get better and it will continue to change the industry, at the moment I find it a little bit frustrating because although it does have its uses, the uses are limited for sure.
yeah. I've one tool I've been using. It's called Cuppa, CUPPA, which is an AI writing tool aimed at SEO specifically. I know there's quite a few SEO leaders in the field who have been involved in making it. And essentially, what it does is you give it the keyword you want it to use and the structure. You give it all the headings, the H3s, whatever you need. And then it can take videos from YouTube. It can generate images using ChatGPT, and it'll put it together for you. So I've just done a few experiments using it because it's designed with SEO in mind. And I've had mixed results. Some articles have done quite well. Others I've just sort of haven't really done anything at all. So I can say it's some of these things work, some of them don't, and people, because they're cheap, people will take, like, basically it's like getting a bucket of mud and throwing it on a wall and seeing what sticks with the AI content. Some of it works, some of it doesn't, and that is an approach a lot of people take, because it's, like you say, it's cheap and efficient to do. I do think it is going to lead to job losses. I think, like, I've noticed, like, I've got a good friend he's a professional freelance writer, and his content now is pivoted away from writing content to more editing AI generated content and optimizing it and adding links and stuff like that. So, it, like, written work, I think the kind of quick jobs that you'd pay someone to write, I think they've gone. But, like, sort of specialist technical writing, I think you need to, like, your money or your life sites, medical and legal stuff, you need humans to write that because it needs to be verified, it needs to be researched.
Absolutely.
So I think AI will help in some regards. It's not going to help for every.
Yeah, that's it. I think in some industries you're always going to have to edit it. Like, I have a medical client in the USA, and there's no way that those sort of AI writers would cut it, because it's from the point of view of a doctor, and like Google, like I said, Google loves first-hand experience. It wants to be able to trust the writer. So you want to be talking about, hey, these two clients had these symptoms, and then I did this, and then I did this, and in 20% of cases this happens. You know what I mean? And here's a picture from that particular case. You really need to add in first-hand experience. And even if you ask, you sort your prompts out and you try to ask ChatGPT, write it in firsthand, write it from the point of view of a doctor, so on and so forth. There's only so much it can do. There's only so much at the moment anyway. It can help with, like you said, writing it from an SEO perspective. Like, if, like, say that doctor, for example, wasn't writing it himself, or he didn't have much SEO knowledge, it could help, like, frame it for him. But from a medical perspective, yeah, you're going to need to add so much, like, first-hand experience into the article to make it to get Google to trust you. And I think that Google is only, although AI is getting better, these kind of AI writing tools are getting better. I think Google will get better as well at recognizing them and recognizing what's going on, and how to necessarily, like, say you just ripped off an article from ChatGPT in the medical niche, and maybe you added some facts and figures to it and stuff, tried to make it genuine, and then you had, like, a doctor or a writer for a doctor, who's, like, taken his time, her time, collected everything properly, written everything out properly. At the moment, I'm still seeing those kind of articles, genuine articles with first-hand experience, ranking and doing much better than stuff like you've taken off of ChatGPT, especially at the higher end of the keyword scale. At the lower end, in some niches at the lower end, it's like the Wild West at the moment. Anything is ranking. But yeah, so that first-hand experience is vital. So even if you are using ChatGPT and you're, like, building content using it, when you come to the editing phase, you're going to have to add in so much unique experience and perspective, especially in, like you said, the medical niche. Those kind of areas is vital. Otherwise, they just won't do the business, or they will in the extreme short term. But as your competitors in the area come up, and they realize will eventually get outranked by stronger content.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of graphs of these sort of experimental AI websites where they'll have like this huge spike and then they'll just drop off completely and die, die a death. And it's just
Yeah.
all because the content's thin in terms of quality and like there's no first-hand experience and stuff. And one of the things that we definitely have noticed in our agency is a greater focus on EEAT, particularly like we do a lot of legal marketing, so trust is massive in that. But then, like you say, in e-commerce and stuff like that, like the first-hand user experience is becoming vital. So like case studies, like videos that you've embedded on your page of you actually using the product and stuff like that, that has all become so vital now, hasn't it?
Yeah. 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 There's no getting away from it. Like a lot of people will kind of say EEAT, which I don't, it's like, what's that? Experience, expertise, authority, trust.
Yeah,
That's right, isn't it?
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot, a lot, a lot of kind of even SEOs will kind of not even look at it, and they're like, because they've been doing it for a long period of time, and writers, it's like, well, I kind of know what Google likes, and I know how to structure writing, which is fine. But same with business owners, and they actually haven't even looked at this paradigm. They haven't looked at how it works, and what it is, and how this kind of how Google is looking at it nowadays. But then on the other side of the scale, people will live and die by it, and they'll just put everything into it, and they will have less success than people who are just talking about. It's
yeah,
very bizarre. Um, but yeah, it's just all about sending trust signals to Google on every front of everything you do. So like take link building, for example. If you do that correctly, essentially what you're saying to Google is, hey, people are talking about this person's website in a positive light. You know, this website owner has off the cuff suggested this product or this service or this piece of information on this person's website. So Google's like, well, if that person finds it interesting, maybe other people will too. So maybe we should show more people this person's website. On the absolute base of it, that's how link building works. So you're sending trust signals to Google. Again, like you said, with video at the moment in certain areas is really important and really useful. Because you're saying to Google, hey, we know everyone doesn't like reading. We know some people just like to watch video. So we're doing both. We've embedded a video in this article. And, if people haven't got the time to read the article, they can just watch the video. It, it it's as simple as that. You're earning Google's trust because you are listening to what the readers want and trying your best to give the user the best experience possible. Page speed, again, this person cares about their website. They've made sure that the speed of their website is incredibly fast so that the user has a nice experience with it. So from Google's perspective, they're like, okay, in that case, we'll show it to more people.
yeah,
It does all come down to trust. Like it's about getting Google to trust your website enough to show it to as many people as possible. But it can be hard sometimes to kind of engineer that trust when there are so many other competitors in the field. It's not just a case of, oh, Google, I would love you to trust my website more to show it to more people. It's,
yeah,
I would love you to trust my website more than my competitors. And
yeah,
that is what the difficult part of SEO is. It's not just saying to Google, look, show me to more people. It's saying, show me to people instead of these people over here, you know?
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and, and that's where it's like you said earlier, that's like where the game comes in. And it's like, well, what have my clients got here? And clients, what have my competitors got here? Okay, I need to beat this. This is my, who's number one? This is what I need to beat in terms of content. What links have they got? How powerful is the link profile? How fast is their website? Do they have videos? If not, there's an opportunity. Yeah,
yeah,
that is what trust essentially is. And like people get too, it gets too kind of, I don't know the word. Like you overthink it. You can overthink trust, but
yeah,
the reality is it is actually quite simple. It just gets blown up when you're looking at so many competitors and people are doing different things and nothing is true in two places either. With like, I don't know, you might find that there is a brilliant website, great videos, great content, and that can just get completely outranked by a well-written, well-structured article that's fast, just because Google likes that over the one with video in. So it can be really
Yeah.
frustrating sometimes when you feel like you're ticking all of the boxes, but they're still not like putting you where you feel like you should be. Um,
Yeah.
and that's I suppose that's part of SEO and how
The highs and
what's
lows
next?
of SEO.
Yeah, man. What's the next strategy? What should we do next? How should
Yeah.
we approach this now? There's always a way to do it. There's always a way of gaining ground. Um, but it's hard to gain ground on competitors who are also doing the same stuff you are, who are also building great links, who are also ticking all the boxes. Um, but in my experience, and working with all the clients that I've worked with, there's always an angle. There's always an angle a business can take that can
Yeah.
differentiate them from the competitors a little bit from an SEO perspective. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah. There's something else before we finish that I wanted to pick your brains on was the new um, search engines. I mean, we've seen Bing start to incorporate ChatGPT. I've seen demos of the new Google search, which looks a bit scary. Um, and already there's been big spikes and increases in the likes of long tail keyword searches. So people are asking more sort of thought out questions than just using keywords. And it's quite an interesting one, isn't it? To think that that is SEO is becoming more natural in the terms of like what people are searching for. Have you encountered any of this in your work?
I have. And do you know what I find most interesting? What if you like try and boil it down? Why are people searching for long-term, longer keywords? Why is that happening more and more and more? Um, People never used to do that. People used to find their answers easier.
Yeah,
So you can kind of get from that Google making it harder for people to find what they need using shorter term keywords, search phrases.
yeah,
When you think about all the fluff they put up there, all the ads they put in there, and they just keep adding to it and mixing it up and messing it up, and then you add AI into the mix. And I think this year, maybe late this year, early next year, I've already seen it a little bit with some of my clients, but what you'll have is a part of SEO in the future will be getting a business into ChatGPT. So, for example, and other AI tools, of course, but using ChatGPT as an example, say you ask ChatGPT a question that ChatGPT has used the internet to give to you at some point, and you've seen it a lot now, especially with ChatGPT 4. It's giving you the answer and it's saying, I found this here. So,
yeah,
I found this here. And it'll even have a link for you to click and go to it. So as
yeah,
more people use AI and as AI becomes embedded into search engines, what you'll have is clients and businesses who will say, "Hey, why is my competitor coming up in ChatGPT? Like
yeah,
I want ChatGPT to use my website, not that website." So you'll go to the next kind of stage of SEO where you're like, "All right, how are we going to get this business? How are we going to get ChatGPT to use this business's information over that business's information?" Because for certain terms that could potentially be commercial, the answer pops up in ChatGPT, the link pops up, and a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I want to read a little bit more on that. Let's click into it." And that's the game, isn't it? Driving
yeah,
traffic to the website. So I do think things are changing, and I think that'll play a part in the future. But at the moment, we're not fully there yet. We're not fully there. And in terms of the long tail keyword, yeah, the search volume based around long tail keywords has gone up, especially since around September. So it certainly is but remember that has always been a tactic for new businesses as well to forge a place in the markets.
yeah,
The shorter the keyword, the harder it is. So hey, we're a new business. Let's go after some long tail ones to try and establish a foothold of the market. Um, it's always been a kind of tactic to gain. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, the volume of those keywords has definitely gone up. So, and they're easier to hit as well. Like in terms of content, they can be harder to structure content around really long.
oh yeah,
You know what I
oh
mean? Like especially if
yeah,
you're doing a couple of them, it can be hell. But at the same time, when the keyword's easier, it can work a bit easier. And then you come to link building, you get a client that's like wants a 6 word anchor text and you're like, no, no, it
yeah,
just
yeah,
looks too commercial. It looks too obvious. You can't do that. You need to shorten it down and trust Google to put two and two together. So you might
yeah,
shorten it to 3 words whilst leaving the whole term in there, but shorten the actual link, the anchor to 3 words. And Google will usually think, oh, hey, this is what they're talking about, and you get the boost anyway. or
Yeah.
just kind of restructuring what you're trying to do in terms of link building. So yeah, it's definitely something that I've seen people ask more for, 100%.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting year. Let's just say that. And anyone listening, if you've got any concerns or tips on opportunities that are popping up, let us know in the comments, and we'll chat about them in the next episode. But yeah, I think that's a great start anyway to SEO Science podcast. So thank you very much, Joe. It's been really interesting.
No, mate, it's thanks for having me on. It's nice talking about this sort of stuff, and I look forward to future ones where we can get more in depth on some stuff as well. It'll be interesting.
Well, I think the next few episodes we're going to be looking at backlinks, and you could honestly do an entire podcast on backlinks because it's that in depth and it's interesting as well. Always looking at what's working, what's not working, and just playing around with things because there's been a few really interesting theories in the backlink world recently. So yeah, we'll get stuck into all them in the next few episodes. If anyone wants to learn a bit more about you and your agency, Joe, where's the best place to look?
I'm at sequenceseo.com. So if you want to read about my agency and what we do, what makes us a bit different, just feel free to have a look. But if you have any pressing questions, like Richie said, I'd be happy to answer them like here. If I can help you out, see if I can help you out. That's no problem at all.
Awesome. And my name's Richie. I'm from an agency called Billion Media. Our website, billionmedia.co.uk. Links for everything will be in the description. We'll put some other helpful news bits and stuff in the description as well for you to learn a bit more. But yeah, keep an eye out for episode 2. So be sure to subscribe and follow and share this with anyone who you think may be interested.